thinking, and I think we have thought it through, and we're going to go live. Always exciting when it works. I hope it stays working. And so...
Sophia's doing well at school.
Oh yeah, Sophia's enjoying school. Sadie'd prefer to stay home and not do anything, so...
But she likes school.
She does. So, but life goes on. They're enjoying school. She's at school. Most of the kids are at school. Life is slowly returning to at least a normal schedule, if not a normal reality. And so we'll see how that works. But we keep going on. We're still in the Sundays after Pentecost. This is the 16th Sunday after Pentecost. So it seems like this season goes on forever, and it pretty much does. And it walks through the teachings of Jesus. And so today we have Jesus teaching us about taking up our cross and following him. And so that's always a hard one to go through, because what does it mean and what is it like to take up the cross and follow Jesus? And so we'll see where our discussions take us. Well, let us begin with a word of prayer. O God, through suffering and rejection, you bring forth our salvation, and by the glory of the cross, you transform our lives. Grant that for the sake of the gospel, we may turn from the lure of evil, take up our cross, and follow your Son, Jesus Christ, our Savior and Lord. Amen. Amen. So we are in Mark chapter 8, verses 27 through 38. This story provides a turning point in Mark's gospel. Peter is the first human being in the narrative to acknowledge Jesus as the Messiah. But he cannot accept that the Messiah, Jesus, will have to suffer. Moreover, Jesus issues a strong challenge to all by connecting discipleship and the cross. Jesus went on with his disciples to the villages of Caesarea Philippi. And on the way, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And they answered him, "John the Baptist, and others Elijah, and still others one of the prophets." He asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" And Peter answered him, "You are the Messiah." And he sternly ordered them not to tell anyone about him. Then he began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He said all this quite openly, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and looking at his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." He called the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. And for what will it profit them to gain the whole world and forfeit their life? Indeed, what can they give in return for their life? Those who are ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of them the Son of Man will also be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels." The gospel of our Lord. But again, we're in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 8, 27 through 38, where Peter confesses that Jesus is the Messiah, and then he tells us we should take up our cross and follow him. So now on to our questions. The Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke all contain the story of the declaration of faith by Peter. The details of the story are quite similar. The disciples are heading to Caesarea Philippi. Jesus asks his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" So the question is, how else might the contemporaries of Jesus describe him?
Healer.
Healer.
Magician.
Magician, yeah.
Teacher.
Teacher.
Threat.
A threat. And I think for the scribes and the chief priests, a charlatan or heretic, which comes into the threat. So what answer is Jesus seeking?
He wants him to say he's the Son of God, but doesn't he? Or doesn't he?
I think so.
He does? Okay. But he doesn't want them to tell anyone.
No.
It's always been perplexing to me, too.
It's different places
He
said
just
like
did.
that.
Don't tell
anyone when he heals somebody.
Yeah. It's interesting to do something great and then tell people not to tell anybody about it.
Does that just mean he wants to be really humbled?
Well, the debate is he either doesn't want anybody to tell him because then everybody will think he's a rock star and he can't do anything because he's going to have people crowding him all the time, as we see what happens. The other possibility is he understands reverse psychology, and the more you tell people not to do anything, the more they do it. But I'm assuming it's the
keep
first.
my secret, and then it's blabbed all over town.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming it's the first. It's hard to go around teaching people and meeting people if you're surrounded by hordes of people.
And I think he was humble, though, too.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, the answers given by the disciples reflect the roots of the Old Testament. Some people think Jesus is John the Baptist, Elijah, or one of the prophets. Then Jesus asked the question directly to the disciples. But who do you say that I am? Peter becomes the star student. You are the Messiah. Good answer. This is the core confession of faith. In response to Peter's answer, Jesus reveals his future suffering, rejection, and death, and resurrection. He speaks openly to his disciples, but Peter takes him aside to convince him to walk another path. Jesus turns to Peter and rebukes him. The star student has sunk to the bottom of the class. So why would Peter try to alter the path of Jesus?
I don't think he wanted to let his friend and Messiah go.
Wanted to suffer. And
Nobody wants to have their friend suffer either.
No, nobody wants to see their friends suffer and die. Well, the other possibility, too, is the Messiah was supposed to be doing something great.
Be this
Dying
big
isn't...
rock star.
Everybody
like you
does
said.
it.
Anybody can die. Not everybody can be king. And so that's that changes everything when you think you're following the one who's going to lead you to better things. And
they tell you that they're not going to be around forever, and
yep.
then what's the point, and why should we go through all this?
Yep, that's not the way it's supposed to be. Never heard any kid say that. Or adult. So why was Jesus so angry with Peter?
He didn't get it. He didn't get what the whole mission was. And
He didn't understand. Another way to understand Satan is one who is tempting, a tempter. And so, Peter's words, I have to admit, it would have been easier for Jesus to follow Peter than to follow God. A lot less painful. If somebody tells you to take the easy route, what do?
it's very tempting.
And when
to take
Peter
the easy route.
told him he was the Messiah, Jesus' interpretation of the Messiah and Peter's weren't
Very different.
Good point.
Yeah.
Were skewed.
Yep. They weren't the same.
Good point.
So how is it possible for a human to set his or her mind on divine things?
You're crossing from the world you live in into a world you, for one thing, don't understand. And these were simple people, these disciples, their lives had been simple till he walked into them, and he's asking them to believe in. I mean, granted, he does these miracles, but still, just above and beyond.
Yeah, but he's also taken the way to do divine things is fairly simple, is to love your neighbor. I mean, to look at what's going to be good for your neighbor. I mean, takes it down into simple, concrete terms. Is what is going to benefit my neighbor? How am I going to show love to my neighbor?
And I've often thought even famous people do simple things and want to be more or less allowed to do simple things.
Yeah.
Like tie their own shoes, make their own meals, not always have this divine image.
It's the only reason I had kids.
No, they're too humble. They're humble.
Yeah. Well, the other picture we get of divine thinking is we get from Paul, and right now the letter is skipping my mind, where he talks about having a vision being taken up into the heavens. People will meditate and contemplate and get into you get into a divine zone. And you get that sometimes too when you get to do, you'll have a moment in time where you feel the, divinity around you. Whether it's that perfect peace at a sunset or walking through the woods, hearing trees, hearing trees talk. Hearing the wind go through the trees. Hearing trees talk too is also a divine moment. But you get those times in life where you just feel like, it could be when all the kids come home and you just, everybody's together. And when they leave, yes.
Yeah.
Right, Mom?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I agree.
You reflect on the wonderful weekend that we just had, but then when the house is quiet again, then it's kind of...
You get peace. Okay. Well, Jesus then proclaims a central principle of his teaching and his life. If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. Following Jesus is meant to be a life-changing transformation. In this passage, the class moves from the fundamentals to the unexpected depth of discipleship. People who carry crosses tend to end up dying on the very cross they carry. Carrying a cross is not a path to glory and personal reward. Jesus expands his teachings. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. So what does it mean to carry one's cross?
Well, they're always talking about, well, that's your cross to bear. There's something in your life that you can't change, that's a constant. This is a different interpretation, I'm sure, than what you're going for. But,
Yeah.
Well, to me, carrying the cross, to me, the cross symbolizes the saving of our Savior, the dying on the cross, and I guess when we carry that, we keep that as a focus for ourselves and our lives. That we were saved on that cross, and that is how I think of carrying a cross is making that be a statement in your life. That Ma doesn't think so. What do you think, Mama?
Yeah, that's what he did. He did it for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he suffered for us. Yeah. So often, this is always the hard part.
But I think you did kind of type into it too, Beth.
well, it's just a phrase,
Is we talk about, it's a phrase we use, but
it is.
so often it gets to be used to say, this is where I'm comfortable at. This is just part of my life. And sometimes it's used to keep us in bad places. Is up for the longest time when we're told this is just your cross to bear. When it's your spouse. It's this is more looking at the cross is more connected to Jesus. Is how is your pain related to following Jesus? I know for some people it's you have people who are whistleblowers and all the consequences that can come with that. I mean, when you see something wrong going on and having to speak up and knowing that you can be fired, you can be harassed. I mean, well, even nowadays, you see Erica, you put a mask on. you know, and you can get harassed going through a store. I mean, you know, doing the right thing to care for your neighbor, to be respectful of the people around you, and it costs. It can cost.
Yeah.
And that's, I think Jesus is more going towards, you know, if the cross we bear for following him. You know, sometimes, you know, it is just the way you do day-to-day life. You know, we were talking about yesterday with, you know, there are some people that are called to go overseas and be missionaries and live with that struggle of being in a different culture and a different climate and a different language. But it's just as hard to live in our own culture and our own place and stand up for what it takes to love your neighbor. I mean, and especially that's another hard part about the United States is, you know, we have so much you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's all about you and all what you can get.
But you know, when you said that too, if you don't realize how many people from all over the world we've touched living in Walnut Grove and living in this community, in this area, you know, I have spent here my whole life, and this has been home to Mom too, and we've touched an awful lot of people that have come here. Just the other day when I stopped and took the picture from the people from Virginia, it was their life mission, a 5-month adventure, and this was one of her highlights from Virginia. And me stopping to take her picture just meant the world to her. And it's like, really? Really?
I cannot wrap around it.
I know we can't. We can't.
We take it for granted.
We do. But to me, that's part of what I'm called to be here to do.
You have to be welcoming and courteous and helpful, and to let them know that this is a good place.
So people try to be good people.
But one of the top things to do on her list.
The words lifelong dream.
5-month journey.
Yeah, well, everybody has different things.
I know. I just thought, and I was so thankful that I'd stopped that day. Mom thought, what the heck are you doing?
Because I'm still working on a youth gathering to convince the kids we should take a detour and stop in Chicago and see the ELCA headquarters.
Well, that would be a real hard
detour. I've not had any kids want to go to there.
That'd be a hard detour when they're going to Minneapolis.
Why would they want to go there?
Well, it's the headquarters of our church. Let's see what our office workers are doing, our planners.
But they won't be there if they're in that gathering, though.
We'll only park there in the gathering.
We
can, you know.
That's next summer.
You can see, you can see where the bishop works, you know.
Yeah. Well, that could be a sideline for another
Not many
year.
people get excited about going into an office building.
Maybe that's where they'll plan for the next one. I don't know. Minneapolis
we'll
has got
see.
enough problems.
Oh gosh.
Yep.
Oh my God.
And so, what is it? Next question is, what does it mean what does Jesus mean when he says to lose one's life?
You have to give up your old way of living. You have to change who you are.
Oof. We can't do change.
No.
Who wants to change who we are?
No, we can't. We don't do it well when we try.
Nope. But it's our goal is to change our ways, to take our focus off inward and put it outward, to see God and see God's people. It's a hard change. I know people, one of the sayings I'll hear is, if only they give up that 1 cup of cappuccino a week, they can just save a lot of people. And it's like, Jesus is talking more than just 1 cup of cappuccino. It's the whole ball of wax. And how do we make that who we are, to live daily and momently with that love of neighbor? Doesn't mean we give up doing the fun things we like to do. It just means how do we do that and also serve, keep God in focus. That's why all my PlayStation 5 games have some sort of scriptural reference. No.
I wouldn't even know if I'd turn one of those things on.
That's right, I don't either. I just saw I think it's one of the prizes for the kids.
Okay.
It's either PlayStation or Xbox is one of the prizes for the kids for their fundraising that they brought home last night.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
My.
I got that emailed to me.
Yeah, I still have to do that. Okay. Well, many will view the death of Jesus on the cross as shameful, as if Jesus has done something wrong. Jesus is an innocent man who takes the shame and guilt of all people to the cross with him and dies on their behalf. Those who are ashamed of the Messiah and deny Jesus will be denied by Jesus. These are not idle words by Jesus. He is quite serious in his mission and his invitation to discipleship, but it is not an easy commitment. So what are we to remember from this passage?
That is
There's
not
a-
an easy commitment.
There's a lot here, but Jesus being so innocent, you know, he did nothing but help us.
And I think that's made him suspect. Why is he doing this? How can he do this? What does he want? You know, what does he want from people?
Well, don't we always suspect people who are doing good? What are their motives? What are their intentions?
True.
There's always got to be a
Hidden agenda.
Yep.
And sometimes there's not.
No. Okay. Well, now on to the Word Among Us, the second page. 2 college students walked into the university on the first day of fall semester and sat down beside each other in the classroom. The professor promptly began with an opening lecture. One of the students was enthralled with the presentation, while the other dozed off to sleep. The second student had decided in the first 3 minutes of class that the professor was too difficult and decided to transfer out.
In 3 minutes.
So how do you decide if a teacher is worth the effort and the energy?
Just those first few minutes are important, huh?
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
Well,
We
you
were
just
just talking
mentioned
about
that.
that coming
You
in.
just did.
That first day is crucial.
I still remember my first day of seminary. I was so scared of what I got myself into.
Yeah.
My professor came in doing cartwheels and backflips.
Oh,
Good
It's
for
like,
him.
yeah, I'm not going to do that if that pastor has to do that.
Talk about an icebreaker.
Yep. I have to admit, I think most of my classes were required, so it was what fit into my schedule.
That's kind of what I was. How do you decide if it's worth the effort? If it's a class that you have to take to get what you need to, you better sit down and
Tough it
Figure
out.
it out.
tough it out. Yeah, figure it out.
I had other classmates who were pickier, and they had more flexibility, and so they...
It used to be that the whole first week of school in high school was you had that time
to change
to
classes.
change your schedule. So you never knew from day to day who'd be sitting in there that first week.
Yeah.
Then, so never fill your grade book out. Never put names in the grade book until after the first week is over.
Or even with college, you have, what, 30 days or something like that to change classes?
I don't know how that works anymore. Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
I guess the way it had, I just was required, and I just took when I needed to. You had classes when you had that was just what you had to have to be a comptroller.
we didn't have a big choice, I don't think. Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of
You got a degree in comptrolling, right, Ma?
Photometry.
Contometry. What?
You don't
Remember
even know
that.
what that is.
Yeah. It's something to do with business.
yeah. And so what do you advise? What do you advise if a student gets a difficult teacher?
Stick it out. It's maybe going to be worth your effort to.
Well, still strive to learn.
Yeah, I don't remember any of our kids getting out of taking anything. If they complained at home, it was always a case of tough it out. You need it, do it. There's really no discussion here.
Yeah.
You know, you have to.
Find ways to make it work.
Yeah.
See what you can do to
Right.
make your way mesh with their way.
Right.
I think Annalie liked the idea of Russian and took a Russian class. and I don't even know if it was a required
What kind
or
of
what that.
class is that?
Russian, to
Language.
learn
Learning
Russian.
to speak Russian.
Oh,
To Russian. I think there was
how does
there was
over the
an
internet?
egg
No, and
trip
when she was in
that
college,
would
she
have
wanted to
related
take
to
it.
that,
Okay.
and it was so difficult. She she worked her
Terrible.
butt off, but it was just like she
It's
had
hard.
to drop it because it was
Yeah.
just taking up too much time away from the other classes that she needed to do well in.
Yeah, that's why they teach Hebrew or Greek during the summer at seminaries.
Okay.
Then you only have one class, and that's the only class you
The only
take.
class.
Sure.
Because it's, it can get distracting and
Right. And then your other classes falter.
yeah.
And that's what happened.
Yeah.
That's what can happen.
Okay. Well, as children and youth, we are often assigned teachers throughout our education with little choice in the matter. But at some point, most of us learn to check out the teacher. Sometimes students and their parents orchestrate and maneuver to get the best teachers. It's not always a pretty sight. Adult learners, such as college students, can be quite selective. This is especially true if the learner is paying hard-earned money for education. Yeah, I guess there's websites you can search out your teachers on.
Yeah.
Get the response.
You talk to other kids too. What'd you have to do? How bad was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how might difficult teachers be the best teachers?
They challenge you to be your best.
Yeah, they challenge you, they push you. And you take you to places you wouldn't expect to go. So describe the teaching style of Jesus.
Well, there's a teaching style where you ask questions.
Yeah.
Is that Socrates? I can't remember. Right. It doesn't matter.
I don't know teaching styles. I was hoping you had that answer.
No, because we didn't study teaching styles. You just had to develop your own. It was sink or swim.
Okay.
That was all it was. It was just get in there and do it. If it doesn't work for you, sorry.
Yeah, like he's a lot of hands-on.
That's what I was going to say. Jesus was a friend, and he taught by example.
Yeah.
He wasn't the one writing on the board saying this is how you do things. It was
He just
What
lived
they're
his
doing.
life as way it.
Observation. They
Yeah.
were constantly watching him.
yeah.
But he did ask, who do you think I am? And that is a teaching technique.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
asking questions.
Yeah. And telling stories.
And telling stories.
Told lots of
Huge,
stories.
yes. That's a huge one.
Which is another important thing.
It is. It works well.
So, well, how difficult is it to understand the teaching of Jesus?
You just need to dig deep and sometimes look at it over and over again to really get his points. I think sometimes are easier than others.
I think it's, it tells you how hard it is when the Bible includes the times when his disciples said, "What did you mean?" And they were there in person watching his facial expressions and his gestures.
Still trying to figure it out.
And still not not understanding. And here we are with just having words on a page trying to figure out.
Thousands of years later.
Yep.
And sometimes I think the simplest things, when he wanted the children to come to him, what is more simple than to get a message out of a children's story or a children's outlook on things?
Yeah.
I'm amazed too that you could learn a lot from those little eyes and
That you
ears.
So how difficult is it to follow Jesus?
Constantly remind yourself to try and do the right thing, to say the right thing, to be patient. Oof.
It's a constant work.
Yeah. And we know we always fall short, we could do better.
Yeah.
It's just
That's a good point.
sometimes obstacles get in the way of doing the right thing for whatever reason, or saying the right words, or not saying the right words.
Or being judgmental, that's tough to overcome.
It's been a challenge to
Yeah.
shut up and listen. I've been doing a lot of that lately, and letting people share their opinions, and I just shut up and listen.
Yeah. It's hard to keep going and know what to do. Fear is another thing that can get in the way. What if I do the wrong thing, say the wrong thing?
Right.
Yeah. Or something doesn't come out right, or whatever. Yeah.
So.
And everybody has the reasoning that is why they feel the way they do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jesus encourages followers to do a background check on him as they consider becoming his student. The process involves two important questions. Who do people say that I am? And who do you say that I am? Jesus is seeking committed followers, those willing to confess their faith in him. Yet following Jesus is not for the faint-hearted. Followers of Jesus are invited to deny themselves and pick up their cross and follow. We cannot pick up the weight of a cross if our hands and arms are full of our own personal agendas. Give modern-day examples of what it means to carry a cross.
Well, think about the example of Salvation Army volunteers going down south to try and help out in Louisiana. And, they rotate these teams, and they were asking for volunteers. And the guy said, we can do about 2 weeks, and then we're burnt out.
Yeah.
We can't. And then we have to send for another group to come down and out of the cities. This is a group out of the cities. And they send these trucks down, and they were talking about what they did, but the emotional toll too, of seeing what they're seeing and the demand.
A lot of devastation.
Oh, that one place is totally gone.
Yeah.
And
A lot of lives were lost.
yeah.
So
But there's carrying a cross. Those people that will do that, and will give up that time and be willing to see what they're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to write a check.
Yes. I think about, modern day, or a little bit older, is, Martin Luther King Jr. and being willing to step up, knowing the risks, and
All the time.
finally paying for it.
Have you been there?
No, I haven't.
That is unbelievable. The museum is the motel that Martin Luther King was assassinated at. And so they've preserved the motel, and they've made a museum out of it.
Yeah.
In Memphis.
Right close to the church there?
No, in Memphis.
Oh, in Memphis.
There's another
Atlanta.
one in Atlanta.
Yeah,
Atlanta
I was
too,
going to
you're
say,
right.
There's one in
that's the
Atlanta
one
too.
I was at.
Is
I
that
wasn't at
pretty
that.
It's
gruesome?
It's all about the civil rights then.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's hard to describe. It's hard to describe, but yeah, he knew. He knew every day was on borrowed time.
And then you have Dietrich Bonhoeffer in World War II, the Lutheran pastor.
And I'm sure there were other pastors too.
Oh, yeah.
Hitler's march to erase Christianity.
Yeah. And so it just, knowing that he was safe in the United States, he said, no, I have to go back to Germany and keep preaching and teaching. And, even modern day, though, is, as I said, trying to do the right thing with customers and employees is not always easy. There's always this demand to make more money and to keep things in the favor of the company, and it's hard. And we've seen it, and one of the things we've seen this year is I haven't seen the reasons why, but the cheating that has been caught this past year in school is around the country, I guess, is just phenomenal. What was it earlier this month, 80 Air Force cadets were penalized for cheating last year on one exam. And
because everything was online, they didn't feel they could be caught.
Yeah, that would be easier, and it's just,
they weren't accountable.
Making the decision, though, your grade may not be as good as you want it, to do the things the right way is sometimes.
You don't want to put the work in.
You have to admit that, hopefully none of my classmates are watching. You know, I still remember that in confirmation. Part of the reason I don't get as excited about memorization is, you know, about half my confirmation class would have the small catechism written on their arms or on their shoes, on a piece of paper, sticky note that they can just flip up underneath the table, and
I had
just being honest in your schoolwork.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing sometimes.
But there are people that just they just struggle for that.
Oh, yeah.
But you shouldn't take that against them.
No.
But I know we did. I know there were people that just, you know, looked down on those that, you know, wouldn't get their memory work done. And
Well, I think that's the hard part is we have to realize, I know they're teaching it more, that everybody has different learning styles.
Oh, yeah.
Some people can memorize really easy, some can
Read
do
it
other
over,
things
they almost
easily.
know it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? You know, I could sleep through math, but if you wanted me to do anything in art, it's not happening. My stick figures are barely readable. And, you know, so it's part of it. Where was my question? You know, part of the modern day is having that grace when people do different things. I mean, it's trying to explain to people when they get up front to do readings or do PowerPoint or anything else is there's a lot of grace for that. I mean, people are not out there. Okay, most people are not out there judging you. You know, it's so getting up and doing something outside your comfort zone, whether it's teaching Sunday school, joining me at confirmation tonight, or reading, or even doing altar guild. You know, what's happening is going to be in public, and worry about what mistakes you make. So what makes this teaching so difficult? Take up your cross. Again, it goes to my three favorite people. Me, myself, and I. I mean, what's going to be good for me? What's going to make I feel better? You know, we keep getting caught up. I think that's part of the cheating is what's going to get me a better grade so I can get a better scholarship, so I can get to a better school, so I can get a better job.
It's not fun to have to think about that either, that you have to go out of your way to come up with ways so that they can't. You know, you're assuming they will. So then you come up with ways they can't. And
finding all the ways to stop cheating.
Yeah, yeah. And they spend time on, you know, I had a class where everybody had to write. It was a writing class, and I would have to everything the first time through would be they'd have to write by hand, and they just hated it because they don't like writing by hand. They like using.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So the first copy that comes through to me.
Writing by hand is horrible.
Yeah. You have to write by, and then you
have to be legible.
Read it. Then you'd have to read it. But then that was one way to make sure it was their own work and not something they pulled off.
It's really rough because I still have to type it out and then I transcribe it because my spelling is that bad. But, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah.
And then I know, you know, I saw this in business is, you know, where, you know, salespeople would lie so that their commission would be a little bit higher, or their bonus would be higher, and you know, people want to get more no matter who it hurts, and we get selfish. I have to admit, I want bigger, fancier vacations. I want the bigger, fancier new car. You know, we all want that. My private jet. You know, some are shooting for a shot to go to space. You know, we all want more, and it's hard to give that up. I mean, it's part of our culture is you have to keep up with what everybody else has.
so Jesus wants to keep it simple, and we try to make it tougher too. I think by doing the right things.
Yeah. Well, how can you encourage one another to follow the cross of Christ?
Support each other.
Support each other.
Definitely. You know, and if you need help, ask a friend. You know, and you know, your examples of Martin Luther King and all these people, they rallied other people together, to
Do the
do
right
the
thing.
right thing. So I think,
I think, yeah. And then the other thing, worship. I think when you see each other, worship and coffee hour. And just being with others. I know that's one of the things they talk to us as pastors is to make sure we have a group of other pastors to make sure we stay in line. Mm-hmm. I mean, to have a group of people that are willing to look at you and say, what? Or to give you support when you're doing something you need to do. And, it's having that group of friends or group of people that are there to care about you and to make sure that you succeed. And, so just let everybody know, make everybody jealous. I have those congregations. Well, it makes a difference.
Yeah, it does.
When it's a whole effort of community to make a church succeed. Can't be on just one or two people. It's amazing to see everybody who shows up when things have to be done.
It is.
And so I think that's just being present with other Christians to let them know they're not alone. It's a little bit different, but that was my worry when Sadie has to wear a mask at least for the next month and a half.
Okay.
well, she's not vaccinated either.
No, not for another month and a half. And so,
Is that what's required at school?
Well,
no, there are no
there-
requirements.
it's,
So I was worried she might be the only student.
parents have to determine, they
She's-
said, right?
She's not the only student.
No, she's not.
Yeah, good.
But that was my worry because
Yeah, of
it's
course.
really hard if you're
It
the
is hard.
only
Yeah,
one
you're the only one.
It is,
Yes.
to do it.
That it is.
I still remember being the only kid without an alligator on my shirt in high school. I
Oh,
mean,
jeez.
so ostracized.
The Granimal collection.
Oh, that.
Oh.
I
Would
remember.
match up their clothes.
Yes.
Oh, jeepers
Or was
creepers.
it Levi jeans at the time? Was it
Oh,
Levi?
yeah. Oh,
To be the only one out, not
Yeah,
without
right.
one. Yeah.
You try that with your parents, but it was really a lie.
Mm-hmm.
It really was.
It
for
was.
a lot of
There was
kids.
a lot of people there,
Yeah.
but it's hard to be the only one. So I think that's part of the reason Jesus sent the disciples out 2 by 2 is it's hard to be by yourself having to stand up for these things and to have somebody there, even if they aren't the ones jumping up and speaking and doing all the stuff, but to be there to give you support, to give you the prayer, to say you're not alone. I mean, it makes everything a lot easier. I mean, you even see it in the Old Testament with Aaron and Moses. Moses said he couldn't talk, and so he had Aaron going with him, and to go 2 by 2.
He didn't feel he could be the public speaker.
Yeah.
there's a lot of fear connected with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, any other questions? Comments? Yeah. Yeah. For me, carrying the cross is defending Christianity in 2021.
Amen.
It's a hard one. Yeah, I don't know. But I was talking with people. That's been a hard thing to see these arguments about mask mandates in schools. Is I don't care whether you want them or not, but the way you present your argument is the way your kids are watching. And
Exactly.
when you're yelling or taking zip tie handcuffs in or
Trying to
hitting people,
Yeah.
that's not the Christian way.
No.
Or blaming people
Or
that,
blaming people.
there's just
They're just trying to do their job.
too many questions we don't have answers for.
Yeah.
And,
But it's trying to figure out.
too many people claiming they have answers that really
Well, I have all the
aren't
answers.
definitive.
Unfortunately, I forgot half of them. Oh,
It's okay, we forgot the question.
good, that works. But I think that's the hard thing is how do you love your neighbor in such a conflicted time? I know there's been other times that have been this conflicted, but I have to admit, I know in your young mind you have a rosier picture, but I don't remember ever being this volatile towards each other. And so,
That's a tough time.
to be honest, I couldn't imagine picking a fight with Erica at any time.
No, that's why I thought the incredible stupidity of whoever.
You know,
this is.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
You know, to be that hostile that you think that
I
that's...
know,
And so we're just so
but it-
hostile.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
So,
I swear she's got a
Yeah.
on her
a
head.
sign, yeah,
They
target.
just come after her,
Yeah.
and they just don't know until
Yeah,
it's over.
But it's just... so we just now try to love God, keep the cross in our center sight, and love our neighbor. And so it's the part we can do, is to try walk the walk and talk the talk, and know when we get distracted that we are born anew each morning and we can start all over again. Okay. Well, let us pray. This is a little bit different prayer. Jesus, you call us to follow you and pick up our cross. What does that mean? What cross is before us this week to pick up? What if it is too heavy? Come, walk with us and show us the way.
Amen.
Amen. Then you can find out more about this passage in Matthew chapter 16 and Luke chapter 9. And the last word is, think of someone who graciously carries a cross and offer words of encouragement. And so, but we are starting our fall schedule this week, and we are the 12th, so we'll have 8:30 service at English Lutheran this Sunday, 10:30 service at St. Olaf. It'll be 9:30 Sunday school at both St. Olaf and English, and it will be 9 o'clock service at our Savior's. And pray for our students as we begin confirmation after school today.
Yeah.
And so we'll see where this goes. But again, thank you for joining us. God be with you.